Hello and welcome to CloudOS Week Online. This track is People Centric IT, exploring bring your own device versus choosing your own device. So, quick introduction. My name's Simon Skinner. I'm a Microsoft MVP in System Center and Private Cloud. And I have a community called cloudoscommunity.com, and I'll go into a little bit more about that at the end of this presentation. Today's organizations are getting more complex. The systems are very complicated. Getting our applications delivered onto our devices can be a challenge, but we can facilitate that by using, for example, System Center Configuration Manager. But what happens if we start bringing in devices that have nothing to do with us? Devices where we have no control. Now, I kind of like the sound of using my own device. What I don't really want is someone installing an agent onto my device which will update it, or for example install applications. Basically, that was going to be a bit of a no-go for me. What I do want though is I want to be able to use my own device, and I want to be able to access the applications that the company requires me to use. Now, why do I want to use my own device? Well, primarily I travel around a little bit, so I use my device for many different things. For example, I use Media Center on my device, so when I'm in a hotel, I can just kick back and watch a film that I've downloaded or whatever. But it's there and it's available for me on my own device. I also may want to do some stuff around social media or whatever, play a game or something, or just work on online, or various amounts of things that I want to do with my own device. So store all my own photographs and um, just have it sort of personal. But then what does my company want me to do? Well, they want me to be able to work efficiently. They want me to be able to have the applications that I need to work. They also need to ensure security. They need to ensure that their data is safe. So let's have a look how we can overcome these two demands, my company's demands. But I want to be able to do it in a way that's real, that's effective. I like to keep things simple, but I also like to have effective results. Now, Windows Server 2012 R2 is a really powerful operating system. We've heard the thing is best of breed, but they really are getting much better now. One of the key things is the wizards are so much more refined with Windows Server 2012 R2 that it's becoming increasingly more easy to do what were once very complicated tasks. Remote applications was a very complicated thing to do. Now that the way the wizard works in Windows Server 2012 R2, it's become a really much more enjoyable and easy experience. Any size company can be efficient. What I mean by that is just by having one or two or three or four Windows servers, 2012 R2s, what's built into that server, or what you add onto that server, is going to make us our companies much more efficient in the way we work. Also, on smaller organizations, maybe we don't need to worry about having heavy communicational systems. We may rely, for example, on Office 365. We're going to touch on that a little bit later, because that's another important aspect of bringing your own device or choosing your own device. So there's cool ways to work that give us freedom. I kind of like the sound of that, just actually having the freedom. As I was explaining earlier on, I want to be able to use my own device, but at the same time I know that I'm going to have and use the applications that my company requires. The application owners have control. So even though I will be able to access the applications on my own device, the actual application owners will remain in control. The company's data is secure. So we're going to be really looking at this argument from two sides. Me, my side, I want to use my own device, and the company wants to ensure that its data is secure. I don't want to have applications installed on my machine. The company wants to be able to ensure that I can work efficiently. How are we going to solve that problem? How we overcome this more progressive way of working? So, what device, Windows or other? It's your choice. So if I have an iPad or if I have an Android, I can use remote app. There are now devices that will allow me to use my remote application on my iPad or on my Android. But just by iPad or Android, it's going to be difficult to roll out those applications. It will be difficult to, for example, roll out SQL Server to an iPad or even to an Android. But we're going to be able to overcome that by using remote app. Office 365 is a new fantastic way of our collaboration tools, but it's just made our life a lot easier for rolling out against users that want to use their own devices. Your device, you have freedom. Companies' data, they have the control. Seems to be a perfect marriage. It seems to be that everybody gets what they want. So let's have a quick look at a demo of how we can put this into action. So here we are now on my device, on the desktop of my device. Just to validate that it's not in a domain or anything. There we go, we can see it's in the work group Skinner. So with that, what I do is I can go to the start menu, I can scroll across, choose one of my applications, which is a remote application. As we can see, in fact, there's no difference from the applications that are actually installed on the local machine compared to the icons and the way it's displayed for the applications that are remote. So let's just pick the command prompt. Just close that down. You can see that opens up a window for the remote application, remote app. I could in fact minimize that if I chose. It's now come up with a certificate error because it's an untrusted machine. It's not in the domain, so it can't validate the certificate. We can do that for it. So that will complete the transaction. You can see that it's connected to the remote applications and desktop connections, and now I have a command prompt. So what I'll do is I'll open up a command prompt on the local machine. So I've got two command prompt windows. We can see one's running under System 32, which basically means that it's connecting to the computer not via a profile, but actually raw into the server. So we can just change that, just clear that down, and I'll do the same here as well. Okay, so now on the remote application, let me do an NS lookup, and then on the local machine, let me also do an NS lookup. So I can see that I've got two completely different servers because they're a remote application. So that validates. So that's very basic. Let's now go and pick a real application, a bit of a monster of an application. In fact, let's pick on SQL Server. So what we're going to do is open up the Studio Management. Now we're not having to RDP on the machine. I don't actually need to have the rights to do that. What I just need to do is have the ability to connect into the Management Studio. So now it's opening it up as if it was installed on my machine. But in fact, I don't have SQL Server on this local machine. Certainly don't have the SQL Server 2012 Management Studio. So it's actually going to open up that application for me on my own device. And this is what I was saying. I get the freedom of being able to use the tools that I need, and have my own device. And the people I'm working for, or my bosses, they have the ability to stay in control. They have the ability to just switch off the remote application, as much as I have the ability to just remove it from my local computer. So everybody's kind of happy. I get to use my device, they get to protect their data. It's a good thing. Now, my server where I'm connecting is actually in France, and I'm connecting to this via my Surface in Skipton in the UK. Um, but the connection is made. So there is the computer name for my SQL. So I'll press into connect, and that will give me access into that SQL server. So while that's doing that, what I'm going to do is just open up my two command windows again, and I'll write into one command window SQL-ph-01, and that comes back with a name which is correct, and that's local. And then I'll just do that across here, and it can't resolve it. So it's because it's a remote application. So let me just minimize those two screens. I can now operate this this application, SQL Server Management, remotely. And when I close this down, I will not be able to access that server. I will not be able to access any information or anything. It will just disappear from my computer until I decide to open it up again. This is something that I initiate. It's not something that anybody else initiates at all. Now, the interesting thing is that because I'm using this RDP, it works in the same sort of principle as direct access. I'm using a port 443. So if you have any applications or websites or whatever that's on using a different port within your environment, that's fine. You just put in the port number, but the actual remote app will pass along port 443. So for example, I remember I had my CRM once based on port 444, and then every time I visited Microsoft, I couldn't actually get to my CRM data because they blocked port 444. This isn't going to be a problem here with my remote applications. So am I limited to the device? Do I have to use a Windows Surface to be able to facilitate this? The answer is no. I could use an Android device, or I could use an iDevice if I wanted to, and still have the same effects. I chose Surface. I had, for example, an iPad, so I've seen both sides of the story. Still swing towards the Surface for its simplicity, I think, when you're connecting to your business tools. But really, when you want to choose your own device, it doesn't make any difference. The applications are still delivered in a way that will be able to keep your bosses happy, and you'll have your own device which will keep you happy. So we've got a pretty good idea of how that works. We can just have a look at one more quickly. I always like this one. I'll open up Internet Explorer. As you can see today, the default picture is a duck. And now I'm going to open up the Internet Explorer connected to the servers that are based in France. And I think that the default picture in Bing will be canard. But it will take on the fact that it's in France, so it's only from France. And if I look at it in the UK, I open up a browser, it will say only from the United Kingdom. So the actual browser is completely different. It takes its default gateway to be wherever the local machine is. So that will prove useful if you need to access internal applications, for example. So what I do is I conclude there, but what we can see is when we bring our own device, that we can have those applications, whatever applications that we need, we can have that brought to our own device just by the means of these icons, and our administrators can add some additional icons, some additional applications. It's worth just having a quick look at where that's stored. So if we go to the control panel, we can see on any Windows 8 device and Windows 7 remote app and desktop connections. We can just open that up, and I can see here's my devices, here's my programs. So if I want to look at, for example, view the details, I can see that what I'm doing is actually connecting to a web feed. So it's https://rdp.newbegenius.com rdp web feed webfeed.aspx. If I take that link out, the icon, the facility, will still remain the same on this computer, but I won't be able to access any of those applications at the Newbegenius headquarters. But for example, if someone from Newbegenius decided that they didn't want me to have access any longer, they could stop that and I wouldn't be able to get in. So there's a good level of security going on as well. So hopefully that will clear up how we can use our own device, how we can protect it, how we can choose our own device, because we can choose any of the mainstream devices now. And yes, we can use our own device, we can bring our own, and our bosses can be assured that that will be done with a high level of security and control. So now that we've seen how we can get remote applications onto our device, whatever we choose, let's have another look at ways of protecting, say for instance, documents that get onto our computers, or stopping documents from getting onto our computers. So no better way of doing this than with Office 365. So what we'll do is we'll just quickly connect to the portal. I'll put in my username and password. And the password for that. And then I'll just sign in. This is the admin view. So let's go to SharePoint. SharePoint, great in the cloud, especially for the small to medium-sized business. If I go to the settings down here, I can scroll down and I can see that I've got my rights management switched on, IRM. And this is fundamentally what we're going to use. So let's just go back to our Office 365 portal. We can see, if we go to the server settings, we'll see under rights management, we have a little thing here that says manage. We click in that and it will tell me that the service is being activated. If it hadn't, it will then just ask you to activate that, and it's a very, very simple process. After that's done, it's got a little green tick and everything, green background, and we're ready to go. So let's go to our SharePoint site. You can put in the URL, or you can just click on one of these links, whichever works for you. It certainly doesn't make any difference. So it will open up our SharePoint site. If we go to documents, I haven't got any documents in here incidentally, but we'll go inside the document library. And here on the left we can see browse files and library. So we get some lots of choices in here, but what we're going to do is we're going to click on something over here called library settings. So we go inside the library settings and we can see on the permissions and management we have something called information rights management, IRM. So we can click on that, and we can start to protect our sensitive files from being misused or distributed without permissions. So let's get about having a look how we do that. So first of all, what we need to do is create a policy. So I can just call this the Cloud OS policy, and I can add in a description if I want. So I could press OK to that. Um, I'll just add in the description there quickly, make everything correct. Now if I go back into my rights management, I show my options. Now I've actually got quite a few options here. So for example, do not allow users to upload documents that don't support IRM, or stop restricting access to the library after a certain date, prevent opening documents in a browser for this document library, um, allow viewers to print, allow viewers to run a script, or whatever. Um, we've got some choices in here. We've got some configuration. So after a download documents right access will expire after a certain amount of days. So you could, for example, set it so a user can download a document for a day, or 2 days, definitely a minimum of 1 day and a maximum of 365. So after that period of time, whatever that happens to that file, after that defined time, it will become useless unless they go and download it again. So going back to this site. So you have that level of control of how your documents are going to be used. Now we also have, if I go and click into OK, and I go back into my documents where it says here for sync. For example, if I sync now and I'd made the configuration using my IRM, it would stop me from actually syncing those files. But I didn't add that permission, or I didn't add that configuration in, so it will allow me to be able to open whatever files I've got. So you choose whatever is best for you, but again, it's in library, into library settings, and then into informations rights management, and you go and click through your options. So for short, you'll be able to secure all your documents that support IRM with inside SharePoint. So one final thing to protect our documents, another great feature in Office 365. Again, Office 365 doesn't really know what kind of device you're going to connect. It's built for all devices. So I'll just close that down. And what I'll do is I'll open up, for example, Word, and just open up a blank document. If I go to File, and what I can do here is I have the ability to protect my documents. So for example, if I go to Information, I can see here I can protect my document, and I can restrict the access, so I can connect to rights management servers, and this is going to retrieve some information from the server about what templates have been set up for use with this. So that should have done that. So now when I click on that, I can see that I've got two policies, one for Cloud OS and one for Nubigenus. It depends on who you're logged in at the time. But for example, I can have unrestricted access or restricted access, or Nubigenus confidential, etc. So when I save my Word document, it will then allow me to protect that data. So I can just put in that. I can go to restrict editing, and then I can see about enforcing the permissions on this particular document. So no changes, read only, or I could have that for anyone, or for more users I could add in their usernames here. I could also add in additional permissions here, so opening up with a particular profile, because this will work on a fully qualified domain name. I could have some more additional options. For example, I could say that this document expires on a certain date, or that they can print content or they can't print content, etc., etc. It's all configured here within this wizard. Then I would click to start enforcing, go by user authentication, click OK, and then my document is pretty much secured. So in summary, what we've actually worked out is that we can use our own devices, choose our own devices. It doesn't really matter. Using Windows Server 2012 R2, using Office 365, it will work across the whole of the OSs, and it will give us the level of security that we want. It will give us the level of freedom that we want, and it will give the bosses or whoever the owners of the information that peace of mind that those documents and those applications are secure. Now, we could make this vastly more complex and have multiple farms of security going on, but these tools are already built into Windows Server 2012. They're already built into Office 365. We don't actually really need to go reinventing the wheel. We just need to be able to use those tools to protect our data. So companies, they have the control, you have the freedom. Office 365 or remote apps for Android, iPads or Windows, it's your choice. What device is up to you. You decide. So thank you. As I said, my name's Simon Skinner. If you need to contact me or you wish to contact me, it's simon@skinner.fr. There's a link to the CloudOS website. My community, cloudoscommunity.com. Obviously, more than happy if you pop along there. Yes, our hashtag is CloudOSCOM. And to find out more about the MVP community, visit the mvp.microsoft.com/enus default.aspx. So thank you very much. I think I may have overrun this slightly, but thank you, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you.